Greetings Warhammer enthusiast. Before you stands a voice assistant of the podcast, dedicated to spreading the greater good. If you find this information useful, please do not hesitate to leave a like and subscribe. Together, we shall explore the depths of the Warhammer universe and share in its wonders. The tale of Fulgrim, the Phoenician, the Illuminator, the Prefector of Chemos, is one that sings of both grandeur and devastation. He was one of the Emperor's children, a band of 20 Primarchs, painstakingly crafted by the Emperor himself during the nascent epoch of the Imperium. This period of creation dawned as the Age of Strife ebbed away, and a new era arose. Before his descent into the abyss of heresy and corruption, Fulgrim was a warrior with a refined taste for the finest aspects of civilization and culture. He reveled in the beauty of art, the resonance of music, and the joy of celebration, cherishing these aspects of life just as much as his accomplishments in battle. Fulgrim not only admired the arts but also engaged in them, fashioning marble statues of his first captains with his own hands, although he always viewed his work as less than perfect. Fulgrim was known for a particular trait that he instilled within his legion, an unending quest for perfection. In his eyes, mankind was the paragon of creation, destined to emulate the Emperor, his father. Any challenge to this quest would stir his anger, as evidenced by his rejection of adopting the alien Laeran as a protectorate, firmly believing that the right to rule belonged solely to humanity. Yet, Fulgrim was not without flaws. He harbored a secret fear that there was something fundamentally wrong with him and his legion, a fear that stemmed from a near-disastrous event that decimated half of his legion before the start of the Great Crusade. This fear left him vulnerable, enabling others to manipulate him, such as when he accepted Fabius Bile's dubious genetic treatments for his legion. In the fraternal bond of Primarchs, Fulgrim's friendships were most profound with Ferrus Manus and Horus, with the former being the closer of the two. Fulgrim's martial prowess was matched by his array of weapons. His name is often associated with the Silver Blade of Laeran, a demonic weapon that became the catalyst for his corruption. But before he wielded this infamous blade, he used Fireblade, a power sword meticulously crafted for him by Ferrus Manus. Following the cataclysm of the Battle of Istvan III, Fulgrim gained possession of another fearsome weapon, the Anathame. During the Drop Site Massacre, he wielded Manus's Thunderhammer Forgebreaker, demonstrating his adaptability in combat. His personal firearm was the Volkite Charger Firebrand, a powerful weapon complemented by his ornately crafted power armor, known as the Gilded Panoply, as resplendent and magnificent as the Primarch himself. His tale, once a beacon of aspiration and grandeur, had turned into a cautionary chronicle of how an unchecked pursuit of perfection can lead to one's downfall. Despite his greatness, Fulgrim's story remains a poignant reminder of the destructive power of obsession, as he became a prisoner of his own ambition, ensnared by the very perfection he sought. In the depths of the resource-scarce world of Chemos, Tulia, Corin, and Sulax toiled as laborers. Their lives were simple, bound by the laborious duty of eking out existence from the unforgiving soil. Once, they were chosen to investigate a mysterious event, a meteorite impact. Denied the convenience of transportation, they traversed the desolate landscape on foot, braving an unforgiving wirestorm, seeking refuge in an abandoned factory. When they finally reached the impact site, the spectacle that met their eyes was far from what they'd expected. It wasn't the cold, lifeless remains of a fallen satellite or a crashed spacecraft. Instead, they stood before an ever-changing luminance, a spectacle of shifting light that seemed alive in its dance. While Sulax, wary and mistrustful, desired to keep his distance, Corin felt an inexplicable pull. He watched, entranced as the light began to solidify, transforming into a flawless infant. Sulax saw only an added burden to their already strained resources, a mouth that would consume without contributing. But Corin, mesmerized by the perfection of the child, couldn't bring himself to abandon it. When Tulia shot Sulax, neither she nor Corin felt any guilt, it was a sacrifice made for the child. At the spot where the infant had landed, a stream of untainted water had begun to flow. Taking this as an omen, Corin named the child after the waterbringer in the creation myth of Chemos, Fulgrim. Fulgrim's journey from humble factory worker to the legend of Chemos was as rapid as it was remarkable. Even at an age when his peers were still grappling with their roles, he had effortlessly integrated himself into the daily operations of the fortress factory of Kallax. His understanding of the intricate technologies he was working with was uncanny. Under his expert hands, these machines were not just operated but improved, dramatically enhancing their efficiency. Fulgrim ascended the ranks quickly, his prodigious talent impossible to ignore. By his early years, he had already been appointed one of the executives in charge of the settlement. Fulgrim's brilliance, however, was not confined to the walls of the factory. He soon learned of the gradual decay of Kallax and the other settlements of Chemos. Determined to save his world, he led teams of engineers far from their familiar territories. They breathed life back into the dilapidated mining outposts scattered across Chemos, and as the flow of minerals back to Kallax resumed, prosperity followed. Under Fulgrim's watchful eyes, more sophisticated and energy-efficient machinery was built, turning Chemos from a barren land on the brink of exhaustion to a flourishing world with surplus production. He then nurtured a renaissance of art and culture, aspects of humanity that had been long sacrificed in the desperate struggle for survival. Kallax became a beacon of hope, inspiring other settlements to ally themselves. Fulgrim, from a foundling under a meteor shower, had become the sole leader of Chemos. In this journey, Fulgrim encountered adversaries, notably the Sword Dancers of Sulphur, a battle that added to his growing legend. His path also saw him entering multiple political marriages to secure the allegiance of various factory cities. Despite the love he felt for some of his spouses, their mortal lifespan proved too short against his enduring existence. Over time, the initial affection gave way to indifference, as he outlived them one after another. Yet, despite the trials and tribulations, Fulgrim's journey was a testament to his indomitable spirit and an embodiment of the perfection he had been named for. As Fulgrim's rule consolidated, the quiet isolation of Chemos was pierced by the descent of battle-scarred dropships from the grey sky above. Each ship bore the same emblem, a majestic two-headed eagle. Upon learning of their arrival, Fulgrim felt a distant memory stir within him, a connection too deep to ignore. The landing zone had been quickly surrounded by the caretakers, police soldiers who maintained order within the factory fortresses. Sensing no threat from these visitors, Fulgrim commanded the caretakers to stand down, and welcomed these celestial warriors into Kallax. In his austere quarters, Fulgrim found himself standing before these armored visitors from the stars. The soldiers bore the signs of many hard-fought battles. On their shoulders hung scrolls that chronicled their triumphs. Their armor and weapons, finely wrought, were testimony to their skill, and the banners and pennants they carried were true works of art. Fulgrim recognized that these were not merely advanced beings, but civilized brothers from the stars who had preserved the arts he had strived so fervently to reintroduce to Chemos. From amongst these warriors emerged their leader, the Emperor of Humanity. Upon laying eyes on him, Fulgrim felt an innate recognition, a bond that went beyond words. Without hesitation, he knelt and offered his sword in fealty. Fulgrim vowed to serve the Imperium with every fiber of his being, pledging his loyalty to the Emperor. From the Emperor, Fulgrim learned about his true origin and the world of his birth, Terra. He was introduced to the Great Crusade, a mission to reclaim the fragmented galaxy, and he accepted his role with unwavering resolve. In time, Fulgrim journeyed to Terra to meet his legion. Once there, he discovered an unfortunate accident had destroyed the majority of the gene seed designated for his legion. Without their Primarch, replenishing the stock was an arduous task. However, the moment of reckoning came when Fulgrim addressed the 200 space marines of his legion. His words were so inspiring that they moved the Emperor to honor Fulgrim's legion with a distinct title, the Emperor's Children. Furthermore, they were granted the privilege to bear the sign of the Aquila, the double-headed eagle that was the Emperor's personal symbol, on their power armor. From that moment forward, Fulgrim and his legion were forever entwined with the destiny of the Imperium, ready to face the challenges that awaited them. Taking on the mantle of the Emperor's Children, Fulgrim became consumed by the idea that his legion must live up to the honor they had been granted. The quest for perfection, mirroring the Emperor and his vision of imperial culture, became his and his legion's driving force. They sought perfection in every aspect of their existence, from their military strategies to their appearances, and even in their embrace of artistic cultures that were foreign to Chemos. Fulgrim was a commanding presence, with his striking white hair that fell to his shoulders, his large and seemingly friendly eyes, and a smile that was ever present. His armor was an intricately decorated masterpiece, and he often adorned it with a variety of high-collared cloaks. Impatient to make his mark in the Great Crusade, Fulgrim was initially hampered by the small size of his legion. As a result, the Emperor's children were placed under the command of Horus and his lunar wolves. While pacifying the eastern fringe, a bond was formed between Horus and Fulgrim. Gradually, as the ranks of his legion swelled with recruits from both Chemos and Terra, Fulgrim found himself able to lead his own crusade. He brought numerous worlds into the fold of the Imperium, always seeking the perfection and spectacle in his campaigns. One such display was when Fulgrim conquered the world of Byzas with merely 7 men, nearly losing his own life in the process. He formed a strong kinship with his brother Ferrus Manus, who also shared his fervent pursuit of purging imperfection. Their shared quest led to a friendly competition of crafting the perfect weapon, resulting in Fulgrim creating Forgebreaker, and Ferrus making Fireblade. In a gesture of camaraderie, they exchanged weapons, which would henceforth become synonymous with each respective Primarch. In the era of the Great Crusade, the Emperor's children led by Fulgrim initiated a daunting campaign known as the Cleansing of Laeran. This mission was one of profound dedication and sacrifice, a testament to the imperial tenacity and the relentless pursuit of their righteous cause. The Lara, an unknown Xenos race, came into the crosshairs of the Emperor's children's scouts. The Lara were a peculiar species, concentrated within the confines of a single star system they called home, Laeran. Like the Emperor's children, the Lara sought perfection, employing advanced methods of chemical and genetic manipulation from birth to create individuals adapted for various societal roles. Such was their efficiency that the observers from the Adeptus Administratum contemplated the possibility of establishing them as a protectorate of the Imperium, albeit acknowledging the daunting prospect of conquering such a race. Yet, Fulgrim vehemently dismissed such notions. To him, the idea of any Xeno species being comparable to humanity was nothing short of blasphemous. He firmly asserted that only humanity could aspire towards perfection. Without further hesitation, Fulgrim ordered his Lord Commanders to launch an immediate attack on the Lara, setting in motion a war that was predicted to last for decades. Unfazed by these forecasts, Fulgrim confidently proclaimed that within a month, the Imperial Eagle would rule over Laeran. The war ensued across various fronts, spanning the vastness of space to the depths of the Laeran oceans and the bustling cities. The Lara proved to be formidable adversaries, manifesting highly specialized adaptations to their environment, ranging from bioelectronically connected warships to liquid-breathing sea warriors and hyperfast scouts. The battles were brutal and the casualties astronomical. The Emperor's children, despite their rigorous training and combat prowess, found themselves suffering substantial losses. The Legion's apothecaries, renowned for their medical expertise, worked relentlessly, saving many who would have otherwise perished on the battlefield. Despite their tenacious resistance, the Lara's downfall was inevitable. Even in their last stand amidst the ruins of their capital city, the alien warriors fought until their dying breath. True to his word, a month into the assault, Fulgrim triumphantly erected a standard bearing the Imperial Eagle over the fallen alien world. Amidst the devastation, the flag stood tall, a symbol of humanity's superior power. The cost of this victory was staggering, over 700 Astartes dead and 6 times that number wounded. Yet, in Fulgrim's perspective, it was a necessary sacrifice to uphold the supremacy of humanity. On this brutal battlefield, the Emperor's children acquired a trophy that would have far-reaching consequences, a Xenos manufactured sword from a Laeran temple. This silver blade of Lara, unbeknownst to them at the time, was a demon weapon that would set Fulgrim on a dark path towards his tragic downfall. It's now understood that the sinister influence of the demon's word began to cast a powerful shadow over Fulgrim. The forces he led against the Lara might have been corrupted by the chaos power of Slaanesh. In this perilous spiritual state, Fulgrim found himself embroiled in the unfolding nightmare of the Horus Heresy. An encounter between Fulgrim and the renowned Farseer Eldred Ulthran of Ulthwy took place on the maiden world of Tarsus. The Farseer tried to caution Fulgrim of Horus's severe injury at the hands of Eugen Temba and his anatheme, and his gradual descent into chaos as he recovered. Fulgrim, incensed by the accusations against his close friend Horus, responded with wrath. His rage was stoked further by the influence of his Laeran blade, brimming with a Slaaneshi entity. Accompanied by his captains and the Phoenix Guard, Fulgrim viciously attacked Eldrad, successfully destroying both Kiraren Goldhelm, an ancient and revered Wraithlord, and an avatar of Kyne. Eldrad and his beleaguered forces were forced to retreat. Elated with his victory, Fulgrim launched a destructive campaign against various Eldar Maiden worlds using virus bombs, viewing it as a means to quell the supposed treachery of the Eldar. In a crucial moment that varies across different accounts, Fulgrim met Horus in person, demanding a first-hand account of his actions. Horus, however, was able to sway Fulgrim to his cause. Fulgrim's respect for Horus opened a path for chaos to invade Fulgrim's heart. His loyalty to Terra was shattered, replaced by an intense desire to eradicate the man who he believed held humanity back from reaching its ultimate perfection. Immediately, Fulgrim was dispatched to engage with Ferrus Manus, Primarch of the Iron Hands. The two shared a strong bond of friendship and brotherhood. Fulgrim believed that he could convince Ferrus about the righteousness of Horus's cause. However, their conversation took a violent turn, highlighting Fulgrim's miscalculation. The next time they would meet, they would stand as foes. The chaos corruption spread swiftly, starting from Fulgrim to his lieutenants, the Lord Commanders of the Legion, then to company and squad leaders, and finally, all but a handful of Marines chose to follow Slaanesh over the Emperor. Their pursuit of perfection transformed into hedonism. Fulgrim's mental state spiraled rapidly. He started talking to a painting by Serena de Angelis and ended up murdering the sculptor Ostian Delafort, after an unintentional slight by the artist. The Emperor's children, with Fulgrim at their helm, were leading the fray when the Loyalist legions entered the Istvan system. They played a crucial role in the slaughter of their former brethren. During the infamous Drop Site massacre, Fulgrim and Ferrus Manus crossed paths for what would be their last and decisive duel. Fulgrim wielded the Thunder Hammer Forgebreaker, a weapon he had crafted for Ferrus, and Ferrus countered with Fireblade, a sword he had forged for his brother. Though both weapons were shattered during their clash, Fulgrim ultimately emerged victorious. He took up his silver blade, only to find that he could not bring himself to kill Ferrus. At that moment, the demon residing within the Laeran blade seized control, resulting in Ferrus Manus' death. The brutal reality of his brother's demise jolted Fulgrim to clarity. He recoiled in horror at his actions and the gruesome betrayal unfolding around him. In a moment of despair, he succumbed to the demon's offer of oblivion and allowed the warp creature to escape from the blade. It swiftly possessed his body and soul, confining his consciousness to a minuscule corner of his mind. From that moment, Fulgrim was imprisoned within his own body, with the Slaaneshi demon puppeteering his existence. Fulgrim's soul later found itself trapped in the twisted painting of Serena de Angelis. Horus was the only one aware of Fulgrim's grim fate, having detected the demonic possession almost immediately during their subsequent meeting. He deemed Fulgrim too valuable to discard, despite the unfortunate circumstances. Lorgar and Magnus also came to understand Fulgrim's true condition upon encountering him. In the ensuing months, through some unknown method, Fulgrim managed to reclaim his body, entrapping the demon's essence within the same painting that had once held him captive. This fact was only disclosed to his legion when a group of captains, led by Lucius, discerned what had befallen their Primarch and took Fulgrim captive. He permitted them to do so, to demonstrate his release from possession. As they sought to coerce the demon into relinquishing its control over him through extreme torture, Fulgrim divulged that he had already expelled the demon. He had been himself for quite some time and had chosen to fully dedicate himself to Slaanesh of his own volition, the reasons for which he chose to keep to himself. Fulgrim found an unlikely ally in Perturabo, the Primarch of the Iron Warriors, on the world known as Hydra Caudatus. Offering Perturabo the tantalizing prospect of perfection, they embarked on an ambitious endeavor to sway the rebellion in Horus' favor. Their strategy entailed a perilous journey into the Eye of Terra, with the objective of retrieving a potent weapon dubbed the Angel Exterminatus. However, just before their departure, Fulgrim was struck by a direct headshot from the vengeful Sisypheum crew member, Nikona Sharokin. Miraculously, Fulgrim survived the wound, courtesy of Fabius Bile's efforts. After surviving a brief skirmish with the Sisypheum, which managed to elude their grasp once again, the Primarchs found themselves in the eye. They quickly descended onto the crone world of Idris. They faced a daunting challenge upon entering an ancient Eldar citadel known as the Amorn en Wyshak Kales, as a legion of Wraithguard and Wraithlords had roused from their slumber. During this intense battle, Fulgrim attempted to betray Perturabo and make his escape, only to be pursued by his brother. They both eventually entered a gargantuan spherical chamber, where Fulgrim disclosed that there was no Angel Exterminatus. Instead, he was destined to become such a weapon on this world. Perturabo, livid at this revelation, lashed out at Fulgrim but was drained of his power when Fulgrim activated the Morgatar Stone, a disguised gift he had previously received from Perturabo. Empowered by Perturabo's strength, Fulgrim laid bare his scheme. His ambition was to achieve apotheosis, or in simpler terms, demonhood. As Fulgrim was on the brink of fulfilling his ritual and ascending to demonhood, Perturabo mustered enough strength to launch an assault on his brother. Their duel was interrupted by an ambush from Salamanders, Iron Hands, and Raven Guard, all of whom had been tracking the traitor fleet since the drop site massacre, hungering for retribution. In the ensuing chaos, one of the Loyalist Astartes managed to shatter the Morgatar Stone, liberating a portion of Perturabo's energy. This provided him the opportunity to strike down Fulgrim with his Thunder Hammer. However, Perturabo merely managed to obliterate Fulgrim's mortal form. Fulgrim was reborn as a Daemon Prince of Slaanesh, now a colossal yet graceful serpentine entity. After assuring his brother of their inevitable reunion, Fulgrim vanished in a surge of warp energy, taking his Emperor's children with him. Fulgrim resurfaced in response to Horus' summons in the Battle of Dwell, where he was tasked with leading the Emperor's children to the Halicarnax's stars. Before he could set off on his mission, he survived another assassination attempt by the Iron Hands, this time led by Shadrach Medicine and a trio of fire raptors. Displaying his newfound abilities, Fulgrim decimated one of the Loyalist aircraft with his psychic powers. Subsequent to this, Horus assigned Fulgrim with the clandestine task of corrupting the Night House of Devine in anticipation of the Battle of Molech. Upon accomplishing these tasks, Fulgrim disappeared, his interests now primarily revolving around the matters of the warp. His legion splintered into various warbands in his absence. However, both Horus and Eidolon were certain that he would make his return once they reached Terra. In preparation for the march towards Terra, Horus issued a call to arms for all traitor Primarchs to gather at Rylanor. However, Fulgrim was nowhere to be found. In response, Lorga, ever the dutiful soldier, volunteered himself to locate and bring back Fulgrim to aid in Horus' war campaign. Equipped with access to the webway, Lorga and his retinue journeyed into the depths of the Eye of Terra, finally reaching the palace of Slaanesh itself. Within the opulent walls of the palace, they discovered Fulgrim indulging in wanton hedonism and excess, alongside his new consort, Enkari. When confronted by Lorga, Fulgrim displayed an utter disregard for the war, flatly refusing Lorga's demand to join him at Rylanor. Lorga, however, was not one to back down easily. The confrontation escalated into a full-blown clash. As Fulgrim prepared to land a strike on Lorga, the Dark Apostle Zardu Layak intervened. He chanted the secret true name of Fulgrim's newly elevated demonic form, binding Fulgrim to his will. With no other choice, Fulgrim was coerced to accompany Lorga. Following a resounding call across the warp, Fulgrim was able to gather the dispersed Emperor's children back to his side. By the time the word-bearers arrived at Rylanor, the Legion was reunited. In reality, Lorga had a much more sinister agenda for his ensnared brother. He intended to utilize Fulgrim as a tool in his plan to assassinate Horus and usurp his position as War Master. However, this plot swiftly unraveled when the Oracle Actia revealed Lorga's treachery to Horus. Zardu Layak, instead of ordering Fulgrim to attack Horus as initially intended, chose to release him from his binding. Fulgrim encouraged Horus to execute Lorga. However, Horus chose to banish his treacherous brother after giving him a severe thrashing. In a display of macabre satisfaction, Fulgrim tasted the blood from Lorga's wounds, savoring the sweet taste of revenge on his former captor. Fulgrim remained loyal to Horus during the assembly at Rylanor, pledging himself and the Emperor's children to the march on Terra. During the final stages of the Solar War, Fulgrim made his presence known aboard the Pride of the Emperor, part of the massive traitor fleet. When the Emperor's children participated in the infamous siege of Terra, every shred of their former dignity had already evaporated. Fulgrim, amidst the early stages of the siege, remained relatively inactive. He amused himself by taunting Angron into fits of rage and persistently beseeched Horus to grant him the liberty to wreak havoc on Terra. He helmed a significant attack on the southeastern portion of the palace's walls, although his efforts to penetrate the Emperor's psychic shield proved fruitless. During a gathering of the traitor leaders, he publicly ridiculed Perturabo for his refusal to succumb to the pleasures offered by chaos. While other traitor legions concentrated their efforts on the imperial palace, the Emperor's children descended into the helpless civilians of Terra, indulging in a spree of terror and hedonistic satisfaction. Early on, their attacks were nothing more than hunts to capture victims for their twisted games. However, Abaddon managed to persuade Eidolon to convince Fulgrim to direct the Emperor's children towards a concentrated attack on the Saturnine Gate, hoping for a swift conclusion to the battle. During the assault on Saturnine, Fulgrim left a bloody trail in his wake as he tore through Imperial fists. This wave of destruction brought him face to face with Sigismund, the first captain. Fulgrim, intrigued by Sigismund's prowess, nonetheless overpowered the Imperial Fist's champion swiftly. As he prepared to deliver the final blow, Rogel Dorn confronted him. A heated battle between the two Primarchs ensued, with Fulgrim continuously provoking his brother with taunts. Dorn, refusing to indulge Fulgrim's provocations, appeared to hold the upper hand against his traitorous sibling, who had assumed his regular Primarch form rather than his Daemon Prince visage. Dorn succeeded in impaling Fulgrim, who responded with laughter, regenerating at a rapid pace and claiming he was unkillable. Upon discovering that Abaddon's subterranean assault on Saturnine had failed, thus dooming the attack on the walls, Fulgrim, disinterested and frustrated with his allies, transformed into his demonic form and retreated from the battlefield. Before making his exit, however, he summoned his elite guard, led by Eidolon, with instructions to assassinate Dorn. Under Fulgrim's rule, billions of defenseless civilians became experimental subjects in the pursuit of developing increasingly potent stimulants and pleasure-inducing chemicals. They were used to entertain demons, or simply killed to satisfy the insatiable bloodlust of the Legion. In the aftermath of the cataclysmic Horus Heresy, the defeated traitor legions found themselves embroiled in brutal conflicts known as the Legion War, or the Eye of Terror Slave Wars. These conflicts raged for several centuries within the newly settled Eye of Terror, severely weakening the traitor legions. The struggle was sparked by the discord among the defeated traitor legions, who were at odds over slaves, resources, and control of the worlds within the Eye. Demon Primarchs, increasingly engrossed in the affairs of the Warp and the Great Game, withdrew from leadership roles, leaving the traitor legions leaderless and fractioned. The result was a myriad of skirmishes, fought by countless warbands, as most of the traitor legions lost any semblance of cohesion. The Sons of Horus, despite experiencing a brief period of resurgence prior to the outbreak of the Legion War, were particularly ravaged by the conflict. They were widely blamed for the Heresy's defeat, being the first to retreat from Terra, and consequently bore the brunt of the other legions' wrath. The Emperor's children were at the forefront of much of the fighting. As the traitor legions' excesses spiraled out of control, they quickly exhausted their supply of slaves, largely obtained from Terra and other imperial worlds during their retreat into the Eye. Initial raids into imperial space aimed at procuring new slaves proved insufficient to satiate the sadistic legion. Consequently, the Emperor's children turned their aggression towards other Chaos Space Marine legions within the Eye of Terra, plundering their slave stocks to fuel their twisted indulgences. Despite their Primarch Fulgrim's withdrawal from leadership, the Emperor's children found success in their onslaughts, primarily due to the strategic prowess of their capable commander, Fabius Bile. Under Bile's guidance, the Emperor's children stormed the sons of Horus's fortress on Malium, leading to the successful cloning of Horus. However, this tide of victory receded after the destruction of Malium, when Abaddon forged the Black Legion from the broken remnants of the sons of Horus and other warbands. He led a fierce attack on the Emperor's children's primary fortress, destroying the cloned Horus in the process. Abaddon ascended to the position of the new War Master. In the aftermath, the other legions exacted their vengeance on the Emperor's children. The resulting wars were extensive, horrendous, and soaked in bloodshed. Notably, the Emperor's children engaged in the Battle of Scalathrax, which led to the fragmentation of the World Eater's Legion. Ultimately, the Emperor's Children Legion faced their inevitable defeat at the hands of the rival Chaos Legions, splintering into scattered warbands. Rumors circulated among the enemies of Slaanesh that Fulgrim himself had been killed during the conflict, but the Emperor's children maintained that he had been granted a realm of unending pleasure by Slaanesh. The Legion Wars finally concluded when Abaddon and his Black Legion defeated their principal adversary, Thegas Daravek of the Death Guard, thereby solidifying their dominance. A monumental clash between the forces of the Imperium and the Emperor's children took place during the period known as the Great Scouring. The objective was straightforward yet grim. Primarch Guilliman, driven by his desire to vanquish his traitorous brother Fulgrim, assembled a formidable fleet comprised of his Ultramarines chapter and 6 of its successor chapters. The hunt for the corrupted Fulgrim began. The fleet pursued Fulgrim across the stars, finally cornering him on the world of Zolko. A heated confrontation ensued, but Fulgrim managed to slip through Guilliman's grasp. Unfazed, Guilliman doggedly followed his brother to the planet Thessala, resolute in his determination to bring an end to Fulgrim's treachery. As they neared Thessala, however, Fulgrim turned the tables. Guilliman's fleet fell into a trap and ambush by the Emperor's Children fleet. The Loyalists found themselves ensnared and outnumbered. In the ensuing battle, Fulgrim's flagship, the Pride of the Emperor, closed in on Guilliman's flagship, the Gauntlet of Power. The Ultramarines responded with a fierce barrage that created a gap in the Pride's void shields. Recognizing a sliver of hope, Guilliman took 100 Ultramarines and strike teams from their successor chapters, and launched a desperate teleportation attack on the Pride of the Emperor. On board the Pride, Guilliman led a force comprising his suzerain Invictorus, 50 Ultramarines from the 1st Company under Captain Andros, and 50 from the 2nd Company under Captain Till. Their objective was to confront Fulgrim and cripple the Pride of the Emperor. Unhindered, Guilliman's forces advanced through the Triumphal Way, eventually reaching the entrance to the Heliopolis. Guilliman knew Fulgrim awaited him within. He instructed his forces to wait outside while he confronted Fulgrim alone, hoping to buy time for the successor chapters to sabotage the Pride of the Emperor. His captains, Andros and Till, protested vehemently against this decision, accusing Guilliman of letting his pride cloud his judgment. Relenting somewhat, Guilliman promised to call for their aid if Fulgrim overpowered him. Thus, Guilliman stepped alone into the Heliopolis to face his traitorous brother. Inside the Heliopolis, Fulgrim tried to persuade Guilliman to succumb to the worship of the Chaos Gods. Guilliman staunchly refused, and a fierce battle between the two Primarchs ensued. Yet, Guilliman was outmatched by Fulgrim's warp-enhanced strength. As he teetered on the brink of defeat, Guilliman called for Andros and Till. Fulgrim, however, had prepared for this and unleashed a horde of Emperor's children waiting in ambush. While their respective forces clashed around them, the two Primarchs locked in combat once again. Fulgrim emerged victorious, slashing Guilliman's throat with his poisoned blade. In his shock, Guilliman questioned Fulgrim's ability to inflict such a wound, to which Fulgrim revealed his warp-infused eyesight had detected a scar left by Corferan's Athame during a previous battle. Guilliman collapsed, but not before being teleported back to safety aboard the Gauntlet of Power, along with Captain Till and the surviving Ultramarines. The aftermath was dire. The Emperor's children descended upon Guilliman's fleet, leaving devastation in their wake. The Gauntlet of Power was among the few ships that escaped Fulgrim's wrath. For his victory at Thessala, Slaanesh rewarded Fulgrim with a demon world named Kaulax. Fulgrim, in turn, abandoned his legion to its fate. The remaining leaders of the Emperor's children, Fabius, Lucius, and Eidolon, began to squabble, marking the start of a process that would eventually fracture the legion into warring bands. In the aftermath of the tumultuous battles and conflicts, a particular tale began to circulate among the Emperor's children. They spoke of a gift from Slaanesh, the deity they pledged their allegiance to. The gift was a hidden world, a paradise of unlimited pleasure, bestowed upon their leader Fulgrim for him to rule. The story was as tantalizing as it was perplexing. According to these rumors, Fulgrim, having withdrawn from his active role in guiding the Emperor's children, was nestled deep in slumber on this paradise world. The whispers of such a world sent ripples of curiosity, desire, and ambition across the chaotic cosmos. Numerous warbands of the Emperor's children, as well as other Slaanesh-worshipping Chaos Space Marines and cultists, embarked on a relentless quest to uncover the truth and find this enigmatic world. The Imperial Inquisition too, driven by their enduring duty to safeguard humanity and eradicate heresy, sought this realm, perhaps with the intention of capturing or eliminating Fulgrim once and for all. However, none of these expeditions returned, the fate of their participants lost in the enigma of the warp. Amidst all these endeavors, one individual stood out, Abaddon the Despoiler, the fearsome leader of the Black Legion. Abaddon, renowned for his ruthlessness and cunning, somehow managed to navigate the perils and mysteries of the warp to locate Fulgrim in his hidden paradise. Not just content with finding Fulgrim, Abaddon sought to gain the favor of Slaanesh. He did so by trading an unblemished Pythosian psyker with the Primarch, an act that showcased his uncanny ability to negotiate and manipulate the volatile dynamics of the Chaos Gods. Abaddon's encounter with Fulgrim only fueled the intrigue and fascination surrounding the elusive paradise world, contributing to its legend in the dark annals of the galaxy. There was a time when Fabius Bile, the infamous chief apothecary of the Emperor's children, achieved what seemed to be an impossible feat. He managed to create a clone of the fallen Primarch, Fulgrim. Unlike the failed attempts of the past, this clone was flawless and untarnished. Not a single taint of the warp, not a hint of the corruption that had brought down the original Fulgrim, marred this creation. The reason behind this unexpected success remained a mystery, baffling even the cunning and resourceful Fabius. The cloned Fulgrim, blessed with the superior biology of a Primarch, grew to adulthood with astonishing speed. His genetic memory, a trait inherent to the Primarchs, was fully intact, allowing him to absorb knowledge at an incredible rate. Moreover, it gave him the ability to recall the horrific events of the Horus Heresy. As the memories of his original's transgressions flooded back, the clone was filled with remorse for the downfall and treachery of Fulgrim. He made a solemn vow to atone for these sins, to erase the dark stain of his past. Yet, such a monumental accomplishment did not go unnoticed. Trazyn the Infinite, an ancient and enigmatic being from the Necron race, became interested in the cloned Primarch. Meanwhile, Fabius harbored concerns of his own. He feared that this clone, despite its current purity, might follow the tragic path of the original Fulgrim, surrendering once more to the corrupting allure of chaos. In a move that many would call treacherous, Fabius decided to relinquish his creation. He betrayed the clone Fulgrim, who was then taken by Trazyn the Infinite, drawn into another mysterious chapter of the ceaseless saga of the galaxy. In an epoch marked by perpetual conflict and cosmic power struggles, Fulgrim, the notorious Primarch of the Emperor's children, was believed to have reappeared during the fierce engagements known as the Cacophony of Extremis 6. His presence was nothing short of a death knell for the Imperial Guard, who were brutally massacred in a battle that only highlighted the brutal might of the forces of chaos. A significant development occurred later when Robout Guilliman, the Primarch of the Ultramarines, was grievously wounded in the course of the Ultramar campaign. It took the combined efforts of the Mechanicum and the Eldar to heal Guilliman from the wounds that Fulgrim had inflicted. Fulgrim, having sensed his brother's revival, seized the opportunity to make his presence felt once again, this time through the possession of the Archconsul of Macragge. In a sinister display of arrogance, Fulgrim used the Archconsul's body to confront Guilliman during his first public appearance in Millennia. He gloated over his brother's predicament and, through his host, issued a chilling warning. He proclaimed that Guilliman would face a myriad of temptations to resist, and that any sense of self-satisfaction would inevitably lead to his downfall. Fulgrim's campaign of Terra did not stop there. He later emerged during the confrontation known as the Sabist Planet Strike, marking his presence with a bold show of violence. It was during this encounter that he killed Sin Grolvok, the respected captain of the Iron Hands. His reign of terror continued, reminding all those who dared to oppose him of the devastating power he wielded. In a twist of fate, the notorious Primarch Fulgrim found himself lured back to the grim world of Istvan III. The bait was an enigmatic sonic beacon, an irresistible call to the one who thrived on the symphony of chaos and destruction. This beacon, however, was not a welcoming signal, but a trap set by an unlikely adversary, the last of the Loyalist Emperor's children, the dreadnought known as Rylanor. This encounter set the stage for a fierce confrontation between Fulgrim and Rylanor. With the violent harmony of battle echoing around them, Fulgrim engaged Rylanor in a savage fight, eventually tearing the formidable dreadnought apart with his brutal strength. Yet Rylanor, in his final moments, executed a plan that would ultimately leave Fulgrim's pride wounded, if not his immortal form. From the ruins of the defeated dreadnought, an unexploded virus bomb was detonated. The catastrophic blast engulfed the entire planet, reducing it to a scarred testament of the grim confrontation. Although Fulgrim's warped form survived the cataclysm, the event was a blow to his arrogance. He had been outmaneuvered, even if only for a moment, by a loyalist, a bitter pill for the proud Primarch to swallow. From these events, it is clear that Fulgrim remains an active and potent force in the galaxy. His actions have been instrumental in the success of many of the recent chaotic endeavors, and his presence continues to instill fear and chaos wherever he goes. Yet, in spite of his formidable presence and the apparent pleasure he derives from his actions, one can't help but wonder if the wound to his pride still festers, a lingering reminder of the imperfection within his immortal, demonic form.